Hello everyone. Thank you for the wait. So before we start, there's a couple things that I am going to go and give a little bit of heads up and apologize for. So obviously recording this from my home environment, there may be a few slight noises here and there. We have a couple of dogs here and whatnot, so I'll try my best to make sure that outside noises won't interfere with this recording. But if it does, I do apologize for that. So, going on, there'll be two videos. So, this is going to be the first, and then I'll be doing one on the hardware. So, do watch both of them and make sure to read the chapters as well as review the slides. And if there's any questions that you have, please let me know. Homework and stuff will be coming up for it soon, if it's not already up. So just keep an eye on the canvas for that. And let's go ahead and get into the lesson here. So, operating systems. So, the objectives that we're going to cover are the function of an operating system, popular desktop operating systems, user accounts and profiles, power on and power off procedures, power options, using the start button, navigating the Windows desktop, using the taskbar, accessing the settings app, accessing the control panel, customizing the Windows desktop, the features of mobile operating systems, and operating system updates. Now, some of the stuff that we will be going over, we kind of already went over when we were first utilizing the Office applications for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So some of it may feel a little bit redundant, but it'll be a good review. So, what is an operating system? The operating system, which is also commonly known as an OS, is a computer program. Every computer requires an OS in order to function. Users and application programs interact with the OS. And we can see in this nice diagram right here, we have a user and an application doing work and sending us information to the operating system and interacting with the motherboard, and then it being returned to the user for the results of their action. So, our desktop operating systems are used on desktop and laptop computers. They are released in various versions and editions which determine the features that are available and include a desktop, which is the central place from which you begin working. So here we have the Windows operating system and the Mac OS X. So, kind of going and talking about versions and editions. So, Windows 10, 8, 7, Maverick, Yosemite, El Captain, those are all versions. And then you have editions. So the easier ones to go and note on editions are with Windows, because they have their Home Edition, they have their Pro Edition, and they have their Ultimate Edition. So the only thing that differentiates on the editions is the features that are initially given, as well as some other features. So the Home Edition is very limiting. It has the least amount of features. Pro has basically everything that you would need. And then Ultimate obviously has everything. So, but of course each one has a different price point. And when you do buy a new machine, typically it is loaded with the Home Edition. So version is the type that it is, and then edition is the type of that version. So in this in the pictures here, we have an example of the Windows 7 and the Windows 8. Now I'm not sure for the Mac OS X on which versions these are. I would like to say they are Maverick and Yosemite, but I can't be 100% certain. And then we have our third most popular operating system, Linux. And it has a variety of distributions. And that's what their versions are called. They're called distributions. So a couple of them are Knoppix, Ubuntu, and Gentoo. There's a lot more than that, but these are very popular ones for the average user. And then lastly, we have Unix. And Unix was the earliest operating system that was used for computers. And both Linux and Mac OS X do have their roots from the Unix operating system. The only one that doesn't is Windows, because they came from DOS. Now, operating features. They have user accounts, user profiles, and built-in power-off procedures. So when talking about powering off a Windows computer, you can click on the start button, then click the power to display the power menu, and in the power menu you can click shut down to turn off the system. And within that menu there's actually a few other menu items. So those include sleep, hibernate, restart, and of course the one that we just covered, shut down. Now sleep leaves the computer on but turns off the screen and puts work into memory. Hibernate writes open files and programs to storage and turns off the system. And like we talked about with shutdown, it closes the files and operating system and turns off the system. Restart closes all files and programs, exits, and then restarts the operating system. Now with Hibernate, you will not find that on a desktop version of Windows. It's only there and available on laptops. And even on laptops, you may not initially see it unless you go into the options and let Windows know, hey, I do want this Hibernate option available to me. Now, looking at the typical Windows 10 desktop. So this is a very basic and standard view of it. So as you can see, we have our desktop items right here, the icons. You have your start button, you have a search box, the task bar, and of course our mouse pointer. So to navigate around the desktop, we have a few devices that we can use. So one obviously being our mouse, which is a pointing device. You can go and click once to select an item, double click to activate or open an item, and right clicking to display a short menu. Now the keyboard, you have a number of keys and other features that are available on the keyboard to go and access certain features. And then lastly, we have our touch screens that allow us to go and interact with the desktop by tapping on the screen. And when we want to go and select or activate an item, we just tap on it. If we want to open it, then we double tap. Very similar to your pointer, except you're using your finger. And then of course, if you press and hold, then you can go and also bring up that shortcut menu, kind of like the right click of our mouse. Now, using that start button, I'm not going to really go too much into this because we've already kind of covered it. But you can use the start button or the Windows key. Here we have our search box or Cortana, and that is the Windows 10 personal assistant. And you can click and type in the search box to display topics and file names that match what you type. It also can look for stuff online. Now, using the taskbar is typically on the bottom. Now, it doesn't have to be, but that's the default location. So you have your task view, you have the taskbar buttons, you have your notification area, the action center, and then the show desktop. So I'm going to go and show a bit of an example of some of these stuff. So I'm going to go and click on the Windows key on my keyboard to bring up my menu so I can show you the taskbar. So as you can see, I have my notification area right here. I don't have the action center because I don't have anything that is providing me with some kind of message for something that I need to take action for. And then if I want to go and show the desktop, I should be able to click there and it will go and close down all windows so that I see my desktop. And here, this would be where the Action Center items would show up if I had any. But since I don't, it's just empty. Now, going to the task view. So, it may look a little bit different depending on what's kind of there. So when you click on that, it'll bring up all the windows that are available to your screen right now. And right here in this big open spot, if you have activity items for your recently done activities, it'll actually display right here. You can obviously click on the windows to go to those. And then if you want a new virtual desktop, you can just click on this button right here and it'll bring up a new desktop. So this goes and creates a virtual desktop that is totally empty and blank, and it acts like your other desktop that you're on. And this can be handy if you don't want to clutter up your initial desktop. So as you can see right here, I have desktop 1 and desktop 2, and I can go and close it to go and put it back to just a single desktop. And then I'm going to go ahead and click back onto the presentation here so that we can kind of continue forward. So, global and profile specific settings. So global settings affects all user accounts on the system. These are generally hardware related. Now, profile-specific settings are settings tied to an individual user's profile. These affect only one user account on the system. So an example of that is your desktop. So when you go and you change the color or put an image on it, it only affects the profile, not the system itself, the global settings. So our setting app. To get to it, we can go and click Start and go to Settings, or we can right click the desktop and click Display Settings or Personalize. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Start and go to the Settings, and it'll go and show you this menu that... Sorry about that, guys. Alright, I am back. Sorry about that. Anyways, kind of getting back to what we were saying. So, we have our Windows setting. This is what it looks like. And if we go to our control panel, we can go and get into even more settings on the computer to go and customize it more. You can do a fair number of stuff from the our control setting, this Windows setting app. But if you want to get even deeper, you do need to go into control panel. And a cool thing that you can do to get to it is if you're already here, then you can go and type in control pan, and then as you can see, it brings it up there. You can also do it in that Cortana search, as well as right clicking on the start. So our start button, if you right click it, you'll see this contextual menu, and you can go and click on the control panel. Let's see, should be here. Event system. Let's see here. I wonder if it's system. It may be system. So no, not quite. Okay, so obviously, because this is the home edition, it may not be actually there. As we can see, I don't see any control panel, so I won't be able to search for it through there. But as we saw from going into our settings right here, the Windows setting app, we were able to easily find it using the search, the control panel, and bring it up. Now, this view that came up right here on mine obviously is a little bit different, and that's because I changed the view to small icons. So small icons provides you the full list of all the parts that are available within control panel. If you go to the large icon, that also will do that with a little bigger view if you have trouble seeing. But if you don't really care to see all of them at once, then you could try to navigate through here, but I do find it a lot easier to go and do it through the icon view. So that's one thing that you can do. Now here in the settings, we have a few different types of menu items, as well as a drop down list and whatnot. So obviously an example of that drop down was our control panel, and right here we have a nice picture to demonstrate that for a drop down. These circular buttons are known as radio buttons, and you can only select one of these. And then we have our check boxes, which can select more than one if you want. And as you can see right here, there's a hibernate option. And obviously this is based on the laptop. So this is a laptop view right here that you're seeing for this example. And then of course our command buttons, which in this example save changes or cancel. Now here we have a dialog box. The dialog box displays on top of all other windows and accepts user input and stays open until you close them. So these are some more options and features for whatever the dialog box is for. So in this example right here, we have the File Explorer options. Now going on to global settings, those things include your screen resolution, password protection, power management options. So right here we have a sign-in option, so requires a sign-in, and then we have a resolution to go and change that. And a few slides ago we did see options for power management. Now going on to profile specific settings, those things include things such as what we just talked about: background pictures or colors, your window colors, screensavers, lock screen, and themes and sounds. That can be done through the personalization in the settings app. Now, mobile operating systems. These systems are optimized for touchscreens. They have a small size, fast file transfer, and accessing cellular networks. They are easy on battery power and system resources, and can be used for many computing tasks. Some of the most widely installed mobile operating systems are Android by Google, iOS by Apple, Windows 10 Mobile by Microsoft, and BlackBerry 10 by BlackBerry. Now the last two, you're not going to really see too many of those in the market. I don't even know if actually BlackBerry actually exists anymore. They still might. And then Windows 10, it seems like they're trying to leave the mobile market. So this may not even be a thing pretty soon as well. So you're basically going to only be really seeing the Android operating systems and the iOS. So touchscreen navigation on mobile operating systems. They're basically the same as doing a touchscreen for your computer. The only difference is that there is a swipe or slide, and that's because you typically have more than one window to go through to be able to see things. Not that there aren't swiper slides for computers, but because you have more screen real estate, that's not as common of an action in comparison. But there's the swipe and slide. Then of course your drag and pinch and spread. Now the home screen, it displays shortcuts for apps and features, displays notifications and status info, and consists of a grid of shortcuts that can be arranged over multiple pages. And this is where we have that slide and swipe to go and check out each of those pages. So looking at our example right here, we have our notification icons, the status icons, and a status bar. So this is the status bar, which has the status icons and notification icons. And then we have a widget and app shortcuts, the home screen indicator, so it tells you what page you're on, a apps folder, so this holds a variety of apps inside of it, and then the dock, which contains the most commonly used apps. Now going on to updates. So first we have patches. Patches are a file of programming code inserted into an existing program to fix a known problem. These are intended to be temporary. Updates are a file or collection of software tools that resolve security issues and improve performance and are released as necessary. Service packs are a collection of updates released together. So they always will start off with patches, then they'll go into updates, and then lastly service packs once they have enough updates. Now Windows 10 has automatic updating. Windows Update automatically downloads and installs the latest updates, drivers, and patches released by Microsoft. The Windows updates will automatically download and install important and critical updates by default. Optional updates and updates require you to accept new terms of use are downloaded, and Windows Update will let you know when these are ready to install. You cannot selectively install updates. You can choose only whether your computer will reboot automatically to install updates when the system is inactive, or whether to be notified to schedule a reboot. Updating a mobile operating system. Mobile OS push updates out to their customer base. Users will see a notification that an update is available and ready to be installed. You can also check manually for updates. So to look for your updates on an Android phone, make sure you're connected to a Wi-Fi, tap your settings, or if necessary, tap apps, then settings, tap system updates, then tap check for new system update. On the iPhone, once again, make sure you are connected to the Wi-Fi. You tap settings, go to general, then software update, then tap download and install. So to summarize this lesson, we have covered the function of an operating system, popular desktop operating systems, user accounts and profiles, power on and off procedures, power options, using the start button, navigating the Windows desktop, using the taskbar, accessing the settings app, accessing the control panel, customizing the Windows desktop, the features of mobile operating systems, and operating system updates. So one of the things I do suggest is for you guys to try playing around with those settings. You don't need to go in too deep if you're not very comfortable, but it's kind of good to know what is there, so that way you're more aware of what your machine is doing and can do. And there are things in there that can also help optimize your machine too. So like, for example, you can reduce the number of items that get loaded at the very start of the system when it turns on, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely worth to check it out. I would actually also advise to try to check out the other two operating systems, but obviously checking out a Mac may be more difficult if you don't already have a Mac operating system available to you. The Linux is a bit easier because there's a lot of places where you can download a free copy of the Linux distributions. It may be a little bit more challenging to work with compared to Windows or Mac, but Linux has actually come a long way and made it very user friendly for the average user by providing a very nice GUI. So I do suggest giving it a look. And the other thing that's also nice is that you don't have to go and install Linux onto your machine to be able to use it. A lot of them have a way to go and let you use the operating system by having it on some kind of USB or a CD to go and access it without installing. So thank you very much for your patience, and I will have this up very soon. Thank you.